Greetings and a warm welcome to the Poetic Flows podcast, where we talk about poetry and the thrills of words and how they mingle with rhymes and much more. Hope you're okay, hope you're fine. It's a beautiful Monday. It is the 5th of February, and we're here to celebrate poetry at its best. So, this month we are actually focusing on, well, African American or Black History Month or Aboriginal Month, whatever term you're going to choose to use. But we're just going to talk about, going to focus on African American poets here at the Poetic Flows podcast Mondays, every Mondays in February at 8 p.m. GMT time. We're going to talk about African American poets and how they've contributed to poetry and much more. So we begin, look at the intro of our podcast, and thank you for tuning in. That's it. That's the intro of our Poetic Flows podcast. Thank you, one and all, for joining in. It is going to be a great half an hour to 40 minutes as we introduce, and then next week again, we're going to go on and talk more on other poets. But today is just to introduce I would say, the art of poetry based on African American poets. Some are quite known, some are not well quite known. We're going to try and at least go for a number of them so we can get to know who they are and what they have contributed, being African American or Black History Month, or I say the Aboriginal History Month, a time to celebrate. Got a whole month to go through down. As we said, we do this every day. Don't wait for one day to be yourself or celebrate. Every day is a chance to be yourself, but this is a month dedicated to that. Just as we have a month for Christmas, we have days for Valentine's, we have days for certain activities. This is a month dedicated. It doesn't mean you wait for 1 month to celebrate. It's about keeping it in the moment and always celebrating it no matter where you are, isn't it? That's my theory. Apart from that, we'll join the celebrations for those who are interested in learning about different histories, some things we didn't know, some things you learn by learning or researching and networking and sharing. That's it. So my name is Joshua, and I'll be your host for the length of the show. Joshua, or you call me Yahushua, same name in Hebrew, Yehuda, or German Joshua for those. But that's my name and my title. So we normally have poetry every Monday, 8 p.m. But I just want to show what is poetry. So poetry is literary work in which the expression of feelings and ideas is given intensity by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. That is the definition of poetry. Yes, it is literary work in which the expression of feelings and ideas is given intensity by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. In line, today we are celebrating Aboriginal History Month, a journey through legacy and future. Well, so I'm going to ask why Aboriginal, because we don't do color here or race. We call ourselves according to who we are or bloodline, which is Aboriginal people. Yes, if you use the word to describe the color, then it brings another connotation, which means you don't exist in terms of citizenship. So those who use the word, for those who want to know why I use the word Aboriginal instead of the word black to describe people, I don't use the word as a color. I don't think people colors. People are descendants, natives, aborigines, some are tribes. So this was a word conjured up in latest ages just to get people, when the countries were formed and people wanted to people in different races, people just to classify people for just for people's clarity. But so the original word is the Aboriginal, the indigenous. So that's the word I used, Aboriginal, meaning people who have rights to the land. Yep. So definitely, yeah. So that's why I use the word Aboriginal instead of the word black to describe people, Aboriginal. But all in all, we are celebrating it. So Aboriginal, for those who want to know, we call them, some are called the Indians, American Indians, a couple called Americans, some of the Hebrew tribes, we have Moors, we have indigenous Americans. So all these are names which have been heard before. Yes, Aboriginal, the Black Indians or Dark Indians, the copper-colored Americans, the Hebrew tribes are there as well. We have some Moors and also indigenous Americans. All these are the terms of African Americans before this new world came in, isn't it? But that's the original names they had. And so that's what I put them in there. I say, give credit where credit is due. How much you know something is good to know. Tell others about the truth so they can make up their mind and say, oh, those who agree, those who disagree, but all in all, that's why I use the names Aboriginal, the American Indians, copper-colored Americans, Hebrew tribes, the Moors, the indigenous Americans. Yes, so clear? Perfect. So all in all, I'm going to talk about American history and show a few poets. Now I'm going to use Aboriginal poets, or should I use American poets? Or African American? I use the African American term. Talk about the poets who are indigenous to America and have produced many poems for history and literature. We can go far back. If you use the native Indians, they had poems and literature which they used before. So we can go that far. I'm not going to mention some which are modern, just for those who know about the modern poets. But all in all, it's a great day to be alive. Poetry is good. Poetry is fantastic. For me, the best African American poets are the old rappers. Goodness me, they would rhyme. You know, when you hear an old rap song and they rhyme and like, yeah, the 222 to the 333. For me, that was poetry at its best. Poetry and music, that was the old rap. Oh, you know, we sit back and say, listen to the words of the song, how the man would rap and put the art, the rhythm, the beats together and put a beat to it. Oh, that was poetry. And I'll tell you the stories through poetry, even add a bit to it, then it becomes rap. So the old rap songs is pure poetry. Goodness me, we'll have a session just for the old rap songs, and the poetry is classic. It's classic. I love it. I love it. I'm a sucker for old rap. I love the old rap. But today I'm gonna start by acknowledging the ones who are in Google, those who are published. So if you type in Google African American poets, this is who you get. I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar with some of them. Until I began the Poetic Flows podcast, I didn't know many African American poets. I knew the rappers. I would call them poets, but you know what I mean in terms of no music or rapping. Until I began looking for poems, and I came across Langston Hughes, Nikki Garavani, and others, Claude McKay, I Remember You, and much more. So I didn't know that at all. But as you can see, there are plenty, there are many. There's abundance. Actually, the right word is abundant. There's an abundance of African American poets who we don't hear about. I'm sure there are much more than these, but as you can see, this website as well, Poetry Foundation, is also celebrating the History Month. If you look and see who is the most famous African American poet, going to Google, the poetry of Langston Hughes has helped him become one of the most influential voices from the Harlem Renaissance. In fact, Hughes is one of the first people many think of when asked to name a great black poet. Again, so he was the who was the best known African American poet of the 1920s? That's him, I'm guessing. So James Marshall Langston Hughes, born February 1st, 1901 to 1967, was an American poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, and columnist from Joplin, Missouri, one of the earliest innovators of a literary art from jazz poetry. Hughes is best known as a leader of the Harlem Renaissance. Ah, jazz poetry. Oh, I didn't think of that. I'm going to look for that. The first black woman poet in America. So Phyllis Whitley in 1773, right before the Independence Day, is it? Phyllis Whitley accomplished something that no other woman of her status had done when her book of poetry, poems on various subjects, religious and moral, appeared. She became the first American slave, the first person of African descent, and only the third colonial American woman to have her work published. Oh, she has a book, Phyllis Whitley. So there's a lot more you learn about the African American poets. So we all know about, well, Maya Angelou is quite a famous poet. I wouldn't say we all know, so I'll be speaking for others. So Phyllis Whitley was the first African American woman to publish a book. It was published in London, England. Whitley's collection was the first volume of poetry by an African American poet to be published. How great is that? How great is that? So as you go down, you can see more of them. The more poets we have here. But go to the top, you can see the photos. And so beginning with Langston Hughes seems to be the most famous one. So it's one of the earliest innovators. I don't know what jazz poetry is. I'm going to find out what is jazz poetry. I miss the old jazz and so if you look here, jazz poetry has long been something of an outsider art form that exists somewhere outside the mainstream, having been conceived in the 1920s by African Americans, maintained in the 1950s by counterculture poets like those of the Beat Generation, and adapted in modern times into hip hop music and live poetry events. Oh, I'm into jazz poetry. So jazz poetry has been defined as poetry that demonstrates jazz-like rhythm or the feel of improvisation, and also as poetry that takes jazz musicians or the jazz milieu as its subject. I'm guessing it was Langston Hughes. Early on, Hughes' love for the music found its way to the page, giving rise to the fusion genre known as jazz poetry. So it seems like Langston Hughes was the founder, or it began with him. See, some things you learn, you never know until you look and you search. So that's the gentleman, Langston Hughes, 1901, 1967. But before him, after him, we have Gwendolyn Brooks. Gwendolyn Elizabeth Brooks was an American poet, author, and teacher. Her work often dealt with the personal celebrations and struggles of ordinary people in her community. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry on May 1st, 1950, for Annie Allen, making her the first African American to receive the Pulitzer. Yeah, Pulitzer Prize. Is that correct? Pulitzer or Pulitzer? Pulitzer Prize. So there you are. So that's Gwendolyn Brooks, for those who didn't know who she is. Then you have Paul Laurence Dunbar, American poet, novelist, and short story writer of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Dunbar began writing stories and verse when he was a child. There you are. So that's one of the poets. I never heard of him before until I began poetry as well. So something new for me to listen to. Nicky Giovanni, I first thought it was Italian. But yeah, so Nicky Giovanni Jr. Giovanni, am I correct? He's an American poet, writer, commentator, activist, and educator. The Nicky Giovanni Poetry Collection was nominated for an Emmy in 2004. She's worked as an editor and lecturer teaching at Rutgers University, Ohio State. You have James Weldon Johnson, American writer and civil rights activist, who's married to civil rights activist Grace Nail Johnson, leader of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, where he started working in 1917. All right, there we are. And check out his poetry. Got Robert Hayden, American poet, essayist, and educator. He served as consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress from 1976 to 1978, a role today known as U.S. Poet Laureate. He was the first African American writer to hold the office. Oh, something I didn't learn. Amiri Baraka, previously known as Leroy Jones and Imamu Amir Baraka, was an American writer of poetry, drama, fiction, essays, and music criticism. He was author of numerous books of poetry and taught at several universities, including the University of Buffalo and Stony Brook University. With Arnold Bontemps. Arnold Wendell Bontemps was an American poet, novelist, and librarian, and a noted member of the Harlem Renaissance. Oh. Claude McKay, Jamaican-American writer and poet. He was a central figure in the Harlem Resistance. Born in Jamaica, McKay first traveled to the United States to attend college and encountered W.E.B. Boys. So there are a lot more. I don't think I'll be able to go through all of them, but I'll mention the names right. For next week, I'll go through some more. I'll go through this last line here to make it 12. Actually, 16. So Lucille Clifton, American poet, writer, and educator from Buffalo, New York. From 1979 to 1985, she was Poet Laureate of Maryland. Clifton was a finalist twice for the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. All right. Margaret Walker, American poet and writer. She was part of the African American literary movement in the Chicago Black Renaissance. Her notable works include For My People, which won the Yale Series of Younger Poets competition, and the novel Jubilee, set in the South during the American Civil War. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, was an American abolitionist, suffragist, poet, temperance activist, teacher, public speaker, and writer. Beginning in 1845, she was one of the first African American women to be published in the United States. It's great. I need to learn more about this poet. So I'll stop there. So as you can see, I've talked about the first 16. So next week, I'll try and start from Audre Lorde. I'll mention the names. So Audre Lorde, Michael S. Harper, Rita Dove, Terence Hayes, Phyllis Whitley, first published book, W.E.B. Du Bois, Dudley Randall, Jean Toomer, Marie Evans, Haki R. Madhubuti, June Jordan, George Moses Horton, Quincy Troop, Kevin Young, Joseph Simon Carter Sr., Jesse Redmond Fawcett, Etheridge Knight, Gwendolyn B. Bennett, Alice Walker, County Cullen, Sterling Brown, Cornelius Edie, Elizabeth Alexander, Camille Dungy, Yusef Komuniaka, E. Ethelbert Miller, James Emmanuel, Nikki Finney, Harriet Mullen, Angela Jackson, Marilyn Nelson, Toy Derricott, Henri Fanon Jeffers, Shirley Ann Williams, Louise Alemayehu, Louise Alemayehu, Dorothy Venner Johnson, Tiahimba Jess, Kate Rushin, and Sonia Sanchez. So these are more of the African American poets, I'm guessing from what I've read in Kugu. But as you can see, there's a lot of poets who I've never heard of. It's good to know history, regardless of where they are or who they are. But it's a lot to learn. So for those who are saying they don't have any heroes or heroines in terms of poetry, there you are. There's some people who you can mention and see and look at their works. Look at Phyllis Whitley, published in England. And Gavini, Nikki. You got Mr. McKay from Jamaica, came to America. You got a lot more poets. And then you got my favorite rappers too, but I won't mention them just to say, oh, no, this could be poetry, strictly poetry, no music involved. But we got Langston Hughes, who had jazz poetry. So this is great because sometimes it's good to go back to the beginning and see how he started and where it came from, to have a clue of what it is. But so those are some of the poems which are the poets, actually. So there's a lot more, I'm sure, who have not been published or put on Google. But for those who are looking, definitely. There's some also have books, and I don't think they've been published as well. So there are a lot more. There are a lot more who would be there. So I'm going to share my screen one more time, and I'm going to show you. So this is our event for those who are looking. As you can see, I added some of these. If you look on Google Reads as well, they are showing you 100 essential new works of fiction by Black authors, if you want to check it out. Poetry Foundation, they're celebrating Black History Month again, poems, articles, and podcasts that explore African American history. Got a YouTube 3-year-old blows away audience with poem for Black History Month. The Public Life of African American Poets on YouTube. When a Black Man Rules by Nael Israel. And let's ask. So there are other videos you can watch on there. That's our event on Facebook. So if you are interested in the next is coming, that's some of the stuff which we have on there. Just wanted to give you a quick show of that. So that is our event for those who are asking, and much more. So just poetry, something I learned today, just poetry. So I'm going to take you to poetryfoundation.org. And see if we can get a poem off there. How about that? Definitely, I need to get my rap poetry on there. But this is a great website for poetry where I used to find some of my poems. Given my source, but they are celebrating it. So Harlem's praise song for the day, Caged Bard narrative, and much more. Booker T, Malcolm X, February, African Background, and Negro Love Song, Ballad of Birmingham. All these are poets well, African Americans, all playing with my father, and much more. So let us finish by just reading one poem. Should I go by Harlem? Pressing for the day. Let's get in a more positive tone. Let's try praise for the day. No, let's try Let Every Voice and Sing by James Weldon Johnson. Lift every voice and sing. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to peruse through the voice. A group of young men in Jacksonville, Florida, arranged to celebrate Lincoln's birthday in 1900. All right, all right. The lines of this song repay me in an elation, almost of exquisite anguish, whenever I hear them sung by Negro children. So, lift every voice and sing. Looks like a song. No, Americans is good. Their poetry is awesome music. As I said, sometimes it's hard to separate the two, but once you get the poet, you feel like singing already. So what I'm saying, it's hard to separate it. But this is a poem by Lift Every Voice and Sing. It sounds to me like a song already. So, lift every voice and sing, till off and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as listening skies. Let it resound loud as a rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening road, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed? We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us far, thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might, led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forgot thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. You see why I call them natives? The poem is beautiful, but they're saying they are true to our native land. That's how I tell you when I say it is their land. They are the Aboriginal Americans that talk about their native land. So this is a song by a poet. It's a sports song by Lift. It's by James Weldon Johnston. Lift Every Voice and Sing. So it's a song by a group of men, but I don't know the songs. I'm gonna look for it. But that is I tried putting the emotion into it. I tried to feel what they felt, and maybe that was my opinion. But I hope I did well. Did I do well? So as it ends, it says, true to our God, true to our native land. They are saying it's our native land. That's why I call it Aboriginal Month, because they are native to America. Yes, others have come from Europe and Africa and Asia to come mix there, but you have the Native Americans who are there. As Martin Luther King said, the Negro is away in his own homeland. So some people are actually there for thousands of years, way before. So now they are called African Americans because of a new world order. But that is a poem by a great James Weldon Johnson. I hope you loved it. It touched me. See, when you put in emotion, it brings you up. So yes, actually lift every voice and sing. Singing is powerful. It's a message you're sending out. The poetry of the past, from jazz poetry all the way to rap to hip hop. Now we're here. So poetry is good. It's classy. It can be music, can be song, it can be a message, it can be communication. So African American poetry was top notch. They used the songs, they used the drums, they used the beats, they used jazz, they used rap, they used R&B, they used gospel in all the poetry. And so we have it here today. We've come this far. But if you go back to the beginning, this is the beginnings of the poetry. So as you go back to the past, you learn from whence it came forth. So it's good not to forget where we came from and what we've come this far. So this being African American History Month, every Monday we're going to discuss more of the African American poets. As I said, I use the word Aboriginal. Why? Because they're those who are actually native to America. It's called the Copper Colored Americans by the Webster Dictionary, long before the US was formed. Apart from that, it's a great night. I hope you enjoy that. I'm going to end it right here. So that is it from me. And that's a bit of intro about the poets from America, isn't it? I'll use that. Poets from America, yes. And what they wrote about their pains, their struggles, their livelihood. Some put it in music, in jazz. Some used rap. Some used gospel. Some used R&B. Some used a lot of music for their poetry. And that's how it went through. But definitely, I'm looking forward to read more poems from there. So that is it from me. That's my half hour done. I don't want to go overboard. But definitely, if you have any comments, let me know. Let me know if you have any comments you want to come on. If you're a poet as well, if you're an African American poet, to be honest, I'd like to hear from you. I'm we're in the UK, so I'd like to hear from those who are actually in the Americas. That'll be fantastic. Apart from that, thank you all for listening, and definitely I'll be here again next Monday, 8 p.m. for February, talking about American poetry here at the Poetic Flows podcast. That is it. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching the video. If you like the video, comment below and let me know what are your thoughts. If you agree or disagree or have a point to add on to it. Thank you very much. And it's me signing out. Take care and goodbye. Enjoy yourselves and peace.